good? Awesome.
Yeah, we're live. Hey, welcome. So glad that you're here with us today. We're going to talk about everything about agents. If everyone had a bingo card for the number of times that agents is going to be said at the conference, like already would have won, right?
You're a millionaire.
Millionaire. Welcome. This is the session on Azure AI Foundry Agent Service. My name is Yina. I lead product for Azure AI Foundry.
And I'm Mads. Yeah, I'm Mads. I'm the group product manager for Azure AI Agent Service.
We have a jam-packed session today, like a ton of demos. Of course, we're going to talk about agents. We're going to talk about AI tools, AI services, multi-agent services, and how do you do triggers to execute workflows? How do you integrate your workflows into your agentic applications? How do you make sure that you always have a human in the loop? Also, how do you make sure that as you're building your agents, they're fully interoperable with other agents across the ecosystem and all of the set of protocols that enable you to make different set of calls across services and access data as well. So, we've been talking a lot about agents, but actually, agentic, agents are kind of new because of the new capabilities that LLMs have. Like reasoning models are fairly new, maybe like 7 months ago. But workflows aren't new. And we've been doing automation and process automation for a long time. What was different now is that there's new set of capabilities, right? Like there's been numerous solutions for automation, whether it is creating forms and doing conditional logics, the never-ending if-else statements, and switch, and like low code for workflow automation, and like RPA. All of these different things we've been working on it for a long time. Now, what happens with something along the lines of your application or like your workflow or like your business process change? Then you're in a never-ending madness of trying to update scripts and trying to figure out where do you get that. There's a little bit of a delay. They're trying to figure out where did you get to like fix all of those workflows, and like the technology is not quite there. It was not quite there to like really adapt and like really be evolving as your business processes are evolving. Now, unlike previous tools, what AI makes different is that now the agents can reason, can act, and can learn. Right?
Yep.
So the things that like were previously not being able to be automated now can be automated because you can have this 3 set of capabilities. And we're going to go in depth into like how do they do about this? How do we use models for reasoning? How do we use a set of tools to interact and like acting? Especially like when you think about like integrating these agentic workflows that are non-deterministic with the set of deterministic processes that you might already have as part of your set of solutions in your organization. And when it comes to get started, it's actually quite easy. So we're going to show you.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to take over here. And what I recommend to customers whenever they come to me and say, hey, I'm now going to try AI agents for the first time. A lot of times they come to me and say, I want to do something super cool and amazing that no one's ever thought of before. And it's like, oh, calm down. It's easier to get started with an existing process. And that's exactly what we did in our own team. The words around this screen, our Q&A process, ticket and triage, issue creation, these are all processes that we had today. Actually already had some of those automations from before, but we made it better with agents. And what I'm excited to share with you is a process very near and dear to me over the last few months, which is whenever someone gave me an issue or a problem or a question about the Azure AI Foundry agent service, I would have to create an issue for engineering. And normally this is OK. But with the speed of AI development, with the number of customers interested in this stuff, I quickly got overwhelmed. And so what we've been told, what we promised, is AI agents can help. And what I learned is that's true. And so I'm going to be showing you.
Before we go there,
the
scenario here is, how are we using agents to help on our own processes?
Yeah.
right? Like we are releasing new set of features. We're constantly inviting customers to test those new features and give us feedback and send over that information. And you're great at it, but there's also a lot of you. So there's a lot of emails that we receive of like, hey, what about this functionality? This part is not working. I tried this. Here's a screenshot of like, what I'm seeing. Help me. I'm using your new feature and giving you feedback.
Exactly. Yep. And instead of me having to respond to all those, what we're going to see is a view from the customer as they are sending me an email of an issue. This is a real issue that we had the other day. And here we paste in a picture of that issue. It's a big error, and they send it off. And typically what they would have to do is wait a few days for me to respond because I'm a very busy human. But instead, what they were able to do is get a response from an agent, and this agent was able to do some work by automatically creating a ticket.
In ADO.
In ADO, in DevOps, right? And what's great is Yina, right? Like, it didn't just paste in a picture and say, good luck, figure it out. Mm-hmm. It pulled in the relevant data.
Because we're using a model that is looking at the image, breaking down, okay, what is the error, what is the good, like how do we make sure that like we're making this very actionable for our engineers, where are they going to go and like look at the debug and do the tracing. So getting all of the information into the ADO ticket right away.
Perfect. And this is what I'm going to show you how I built over the next hour. Now, we had a bunch of customers in our private preview and our public preview. These are just some of the names. And one of the things I want you to kind of notice is the amount of productivity gains and efficiency gains that these customers were able to get. Because we're so used to those existing automation processes where you ink out like a few percent here and there.
Yep.
You can now automate the unautomatable, which really creates a step change in what's possible with your workflows.
We actually launched a public preview of Azure AI Agent Service in January. And over the time of like 3 to 4 months, we've had over 10,000 customers use the service and create millions of agents that are automating multiple business processes across their organization. And it's not just one industry. It is across multiple industries, whether it is healthcare or finance or legal or like, even retail, all across the different set of industries. We're seeing, and multiple use cases, customers and customer service, internal process automation, like engineering processes like the one that we just shared, research around, we saw this morning, this example from Stanford, the Stanford Health, and like some of the things that they're doing. So across the board, we're seeing customers use agentic AI to take and improve the set of things that were not possible before.
Awesome. All righty, so let's get building. To create an agent, you just need 3 things. An LLM, its brain, the instructions, its job, its goal in life, and the tools that allow the agent to actually manipulate, interact with the real world. How does it search or retrieve information? How does it perform actions? And how does it remember things? And what you're going to see is it's really easy to integrate with your existing apps and services. And once you're done, you're mostly done. Because agents just talk like we do. You use natural language, either a user message or a system event or other agent messages in order for your agent to do work. Now we have a few different ways of building agents within Microsoft. We have IaaS on the far left, which is you bring in your GPUs. You can use something like semantic kernel, put it in containers, and you can host it yourself. That's a lot of work, but you have tons and tons of control. And on the far right, you have Copilot Studio, which is your kind of drag and drop and move things around. You can build something really, really, really quick. But a lot of customers, and I suspect most of you are out there are like this, need something in the middle, that Goldilocks zone. And that's where we have Microsoft's PaaS offering for AI, which is Azure AI Foundry. And within it, we have the feature Agent Service. And oh, yeah, go for it.
There's one more thing that I'd like to mention there, which is around the personas. Like you will see, like as a developer, as a professional developer, you can go to a tool like Copilot Studio and do very quick iteration of your ideas, fast prototyping. But then like when it comes to like take that to production and like you want to do full evaluation, you want to tie that up to your pipelines, you want to make sure that every time that you make a change, you can do, you can entirely kick off your validation, then like, you need a little bit more. And then you have the flexibility of using a managed service like Azure AI Foundry Agent Service offers, or you can go further down and like, even rent your own GPUs and like manage your containers and like scale them as your application scales and like use all of the set of capabilities. So across Microsoft, we offer that flexibility to go from like, not having to use any code to like managing your entire infrastructure.
All the way at the bottom. Now, I'm really excited that as of today, and this is like it's already announced, but Azure AI Foundry Agent Service is generally available. That's huge news. Woo. That means all of those workflows that you couldn't use the agent service before because it was public preview, now you can. This is a great time to get started. And what's great is because agent service is within Foundry, you can take advantage of the rest of the Azure AI Foundry stack.
So we talked about agents needing first a model, and that's what Azure AI Foundry offers to you. A rich catalog of over 10,000 models, different set of models across the ecosystem, whether it is industry-specific models, research models, language-specific models. So we have models that are specifically being tuned for locales like Arabic or like languages like African languages or other languages that are not the typical English and Chinese, which is like what the models know the most. We have language models that are very specifically tuned for actions, for example. And like we have a wide range of selection of models across Foundry to make sure that you can use those for your specific use case of your agent. So first, all of the different set of offerings around models, then the agent service offering that uses a lot of the tools that we've been building for years around AI. For example, Azure AI Search, the Azure AI Content Understanding, which are services, speech, translation, voice, and of course, all of the set of capabilities that we have around security and responsible AI with Azure AI Content Safety. Plus, it offers all of the set of tools that you're going to need to like take your code all the way from idea to your idea to code and your code to production. Like all of the observability, including evaluations, monitoring, tracing, and full integration with things like Azure Monitor.
And what I'm excited is we're going to actually start building now, and we'll see a lot of these features of Azure AI Foundry show up as we're building an agent. So what I'm going to be building today is starting with that single agent where I have that customer support agent that's going to receive those emails, and then it's going to go ahead and create those issues.
OK, so one important thing as we think about agents is I think it is a very overloaded word right now because everyone is talking about them, right? But what actually they are, especially if you're thinking about as a developer, the mental model that I use is to think about them as microservices. It's like really like how can you get to a very consolidated set of tasks that you can put into your agent and then you can then use to validate. Like you can use the entire set of capabilities that we offer around evaluation, around observability, so that like when you build your end-to-end system and something changes, you can easily fine-tune, you can easily tune that like a specific node of your solution without having to rebuild everything else.
This is why I want AI agents to do all of my life. I hate using technology, if you can believe it, because stuff like this happens. OK, so now we're going to build an agent. What I could show you is I could start from the portal. I could select our lovely Agents tab that no longer says Preview. Hooray. And I could click on this new agent button and type some stuff into this form. But I am not going to do that because, as we mentioned, this is built for pro developers like yourself. You want to write code. So let's go ahead and go into VS Code. Ooh, we dimmed the lights. That was exciting. And we can see here constants that actually map to all of those fields that we saw in that form.
So what do they have? An ID?
An ID, yeah.
A name?
A name.
The instructions.
Instructions.
The instructions are like the personality.
Yes.
Well,
it's role and
it can
job.
be very sparkly like yours.
Yes. And the
tools.
OK, and we can just give this to our SDK, our APIs, in a few lines of code. I'm actually going to hit the Run button. And what this is going to do is send off a request and create that agent inside of our agent service. And the beauty of using this code is you can write CI/CD pipelines to create and manage these agents. All the control. And if we come back and we refresh this screen, we can see that customer support agents. Woohoo! Once I'm in Foundry, I can use it to test it out
Yep, you can try it out in the playground, which you can also do in the VS Code extension that we shipped. So the Azure AI Foundry VS Code extension enables you to try the playground as well.
Okay, so I just asked it what knowledge sources are inside of Agent Service, and it's going to use that tool that I provided. And if you're wondering what that tool was, we can see what it is. It's a Microsoft Bing custom search, and we get some answers back on what are some of the other tools that we can give to the agent. Now, real quick, if you've used the Agent Service before, you might think, oh, there's already Bing. But this is actually
special.
This is special, really special. This is a brand new tool. This is Bing Custom Search. And what this allows you to do is if you go to your custom search resource, you can actually, instead of having it search the entire web, we're actually giving it specific pages
Sites.
from our
learning content.
Exactly. So our agent isn't answering questions about Google's agents or Amazon agents. It's answering questions about Azure agents. Now, let's see. Oh, we have all these other tools.
Yep.
Do you have a particular favorite, Yina?
Well, I personally like Azure AI Search. We shared some of that this morning around the agentic retrieval, where one of the challenges that I think that we had with retrieval augmented generation, which we've been doing now for a couple of years, is the fact that you get one shot to your index. Now, with agentic retrieval, the set of things that you can do is it will do the query decomposition, and will fan out a set of queries, and then bring that context back into your LLM, so it has richer set of data, not just the one that was part of the user prompt, but it will rewrite that prompt, will decompose it, and then will send it over to the index and use all of that as context for the model. So I really like that.
Your supercharged RAG solution. If you don't want to do any of this out-of-the-box stuff, use Azure AI Search.
Exactly. And of course, you have SharePoint as well. I mean, a lot of enterprises have their content in SharePoint. All of their unstructured content. So being able to connect to SharePoint, being able to connect with their specific sites or files and content that is in SharePoint is also a really good one.
I love it. All righty, so let's keep marching along. So we did our demo. We built an agent from scratch. Hooray us. As Yina mentioned, there were some other tools that we were able to use. File search, Azure AI Search that Yina just mentioned.
When is best to use file search?
When to use file search? When you have maybe a dozen or so files.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a handful of documents that you want to just give it as a grounding source. When it's best to use Azure AI Search, you have a large set of structured content, right? Or unstructured content as well, right? And then Bing to bring in the world's knowledge.
Exactly, exactly. We saw Bing Custom Search that's in public preview now, starting today, actually, which is exciting. We mentioned SharePoint that's coming soon. And Microsoft Fabric that showed up maybe a month ago, that's in public preview.
So one of the things that I like a lot with Fabric is that you can get access to all of your structured data, not only that is within Microsoft properties, but also you can connect. You can use built-in connections in Fabric to connect to data that you might have in other set of cloud services.
Exactly. It's like your kind of escape valve into all of your data. And then we also are introducing our public preview of 3P data sources. So we've been working with folks like Morningstar and LegalFly, and they are experts in industry-specific data. And so in this demo here, we're actually using the Morningstar connector to pull in financial data that the agent can then answer questions for. So we're really proud of those partnerships. And we're also proud of our public preview with Databricks. And so if we take a look at this demo here, to use the Databricks preview connector, we went into the management portal. We're creating a Databricks connector, and we can select those configurations. And you now have a connector directly within Azure AI Foundry that you can use within your own production apps. This sample right here, the user is asked a question. We can start seeing some of that data coming in from Databricks so that the user can know whatever data they have. All righty, let's keep going. We're on a roll. So Yina.
What about actions?
What about actions? We promised workflow automation, which means the agents have to do something. So let's do it.
What can they do?
What can't they do?
What can't they do?
What can't they do?
So how many of you have a service that has an API?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone.
Oh, come on. All of y'all should be raising y'all's hands right now. OK, great. Oh, my goodness.
An API you can easily describe with an OpenAPI v3 document. Some of you might know that as a Swagger file.
Yep.
And voila, you can have your agent talk to it.
It's super easy. And You might have some Azure functions. Or what's new is
And Azure Logic App.
Yes.
Let's show them.
Yes. OK, so let's click on it. We clicked in it. We have some templates. I'm going to use some actions. Our agent from earlier did two things. It had two actions. It created an ADO issue, and it sent an email. So I want to show the create DevOps issue. We're going to hit next. We can change things so the AI better understands how to use it, like its name and its description. And behind the scenes, secretly, the Logic Apps experience is actually also using OpenAPI. So we can actually see the OpenAPI file that we're giving to the AI for it to understand how to, in this case, create an issue. So we'll go ahead and hit create. Again, I could have done this all through code. And now we can ask it to create an issue that the system is down, something really dramatic and scary. So I can send this over, and the agent will now be able to use our DevOps connection in order to create this issue. If I go to ADO and we refresh, ta-da, system is down. This one's pretty simple, but we saw earlier that I was able to also use information from images to extract it and provide more information to developer.
Is it real, or you're showing another video?
No, this is real. Scroll, 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 scroll. OK. Yina, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. OK. So we have seen actions. Now we want to be able to actually trigger this agent so that I, as a human, don't have to sit in front of this chat window all the time. I want it automatically to fire. And this is where we get into like some inception mode. So we just had the agent call Logic Apps. Now we're going to have Logic Apps call our agent. And so we're also really excited to announce that as of today, we also now have actions within Logic Apps to run all the operations in the agent service.
There you go. But I see threads and runs.
OK.
What are those? Are we getting ahead of ourselves?
Yeah, you're getting ahead. OK.
Yeah. OK.
Let's
We'll
calm
explain
down.
threads and runs in a minute.
Yes, but this is how you get the agent to run. And this is actually the video I showed earlier of the agent getting a new email, and it runs, and that's how it created that ADO ticket.
Fantastic.
All righty. Let's dive back in. So let's talk about the fun, what is GA and what is not GA. Open API files, Azure Functions and Code Interpreter. GA, Logic Apps, is in public preview, and it launched today. All righty.
Oh, this is a good one.
This is a good one.
Why?
Why? Well, once your agents are starting to do things and interacting with the real world, you get really scared, because what can it do?
What can they do? How do you make sure that you control them? How do you make sure that they have the right set of permissions and entitlements?
The same way you do with your human employees, with Intra. So
you give them an ID.
You give them ID, yes, yes, and you say what they can and cannot do.
Exactly.
And this is coming soon, so it's not available quite yet. We're really excited because securing these agents as they are doing all this autonomous work is really important. And from a governance perspective, I don't know how many of you are admins in the crowd, but you want to know everything that's going on. And
which
so,
APIs are they calling? Which are the users that are invoking those agents? How do you make sure that you can control and have governance and monitoring on top of that usage, right? Like, those are the sort of things that that integration with Entra will enable. Similar to how Entra supports applications today, where you can give an application a set of permissions. You will be able to like create agents, give them an ID, assign them a specific set of permission, define if that agent is going to be able to act on behalf of a user or act on their own. For example, if you're creating an expense report agent, not everyone has permissions to approve expense reports, but like an agent might have, and there are certain criteria, right? So, you know, all of those different things you're able to do when you attach an agentic ID and then like use that to like write your entitlements, your authorization, and then the set of like management across all of the permissions.
Exactly. And this is not just us doing it. All of Microsoft, if you're building agents, will have Intra IDs. So as your Intra admin, you'll see all the activity across all of your agents as it's happening. We also have these things called agentic content filters. So if you're worried about your AI being hijacked, we have a bunch of capabilities in our guardrails section of the product. So if we go into Foundry and go into guardrails and controls, there's the ability to create content filters. And my favorites are these prompt shields. Prompt shields have existed. It's basically preventing your agent being manipulated, coerced by an evil user or an actor. But what's new is indirect attacks.
So what is an indirect attack?
Good question. So as your agent's using something like Microsoft Bing, it might be pulling things from websites where people are maliciously trying to trick the agent into doing things it's not supposed to, like, hey, wire me $1,000. This has been trained to track those types of indirect attacks and stop them before your agent performs things you don't want it to.
One of the things that we should also mention here is that we are taking all of the learnings that we have from our security teams and our security practices and what are the type of attack vectors that we see across coming at us all the time. And we're taking all of that knowledge and putting it together in a set of services that we offer. So part of our security offer is a red teaming agent that what it does is, like, once you've done building your agent and you want to know how your agent will behave under a certain set of attack conditions, you can use the red teaming agent and it will send a whole bunch of different nastygrams in whether it is around violent content or sexual content and harassment content, so that you make sure that your agent under those stressful conditions will respond as you're expecting, and you will see all of the evaluations coming from that. In addition to evaluators like task adherence or the ones that make sure that your agent is actually behaving as it is expected, and you'll see all of those evaluations in the product.
Actually,
show the traces.
It's a really good segue. So you got ahead of us. It's now time to talk about threads and runs. So everyone knows about agents, but not everyone knows about threads and runs. And to me, agents, threads, and runs, those are the three concepts you just have to know. And then you're
mastered it.
You're mastered it. So threads, shocker, y'all. You need to store the conversation between your users and agents to agents. But this becomes really powerful because this is your lens into every interaction that has happened. And then runs, you can add a bunch of user messages. You can actually add other agent messages. You can have a whole conversation before you finally go.
Typically, they also use the word turn,
turn. It's finally the turn for the agent to provide a response or do some action. That is a run. Mm-hmm. And a run can involve multiple steps of, hey, I called this function, and now I've generated a response. And why this is so powerful is because you can now use it for observability and evaluations that you were mentioning. So if we go to, woohoo, yes, woohoo. I think someone from the team that worked on this feature is in the crowd. If we go to my threads, we can see all the previous threads that I have created within Azure AI Foundry, including the one we just had. I'm going to go ahead and hit try in Playground, and we can just basically reload the conversation that we just had with the agent, where we said, hey, what knowledge sources are there, and the issue or the system is down. And you'll notice for each one of these turns or runs, there's a view run info, and if we click on it, we can see all of the information that the agent is doing.
How much time did it took? How
Yep.
many tokens did it use?
Yep.
And also the evals as well. Oh, and inputs and outputs, the metadata.
And I love this because you can see exactly what the agent sent in, so that if it performs a poor query of your knowledge source and you want it to use some keywords, you can use this inspector to see what the agent did, and you can update it using your system instructions. And you mentioned evaluations.
Yes.
So out of the box, we always turn on one evaluation just to get to whet your appetite. That's the intent resolution. It looks like for both of these, it was it 5 out of 5? 5 out of 5. Wow, we're doing pretty good here. But you can also turn on other evaluations through our ... menu and metrics.
So we have both AI quality, which are intent resolution, coherence, fluency, relevance, and then also safety evaluations, which were the ones that I was mentioning before.
Perfect. And a lot of this data goes into application insights, so you don't have to be clicking around in a portal. If you are familiar with writing queries to access all that data, you're golden. All right, let's dive back in. So what other agents can we build? Now, this is really hard for a lot of us, is what's the next thing I should do? And so what we decided to do is create a catalog.
Starting templates.
Of agents, yes, of starting templates. And it wasn't just Microsoft building these. Yes, clap, clap, clap. It wasn't just Microsoft building these templates. It was also some third-party partners. So
hopefully we'll get to see all of yours.
Yes, please submit them, and we'll go ahead and add them to our agent catalog. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what that looks like. If we go to our agents section, we can go into the catalog, and we can see all of the templates that we now provide you out of the box.
Which one is your favorite?
Okay, my favorite is actually Safer from Fidelity Labs. It's pretty cool. What it does is it has fine-tuned financial data that will use an agent to check, is the information that is being generated compliant or not? And I love this because this is going to be a good segue into the next thing that we're talking about, which is multi-agent systems. Because this makes a really small, task-oriented agent that does one thing and one thing really, really well. Is it compliant or not? And you can add it as part of a broader workflow.
Perfect.
Now, what we're going to use, though, is the exact question answering agent. Because if we remember going back to the scenario that we were interested in building, which is answering questions for a user, what we wanted to be able to do is answer some questions the same way every single time accurately.
And this is super important in highly regulated industries when you don't want the LLM to be inventing an answer based on the prompt, right? Like you want, if the question comes in, you got to make sure that it answers exactly that answer. So this is a way in which it's a template that is using a set of services that we offer as part of Azure AI Foundry, where it will use the ability to define the utterances and which is the question, which is the answer, in addition to using LLMs.
And so we have this GitHub, which you can use to create your agents. We've already created here this exact question answering agent. We can see the instructions that came as part of the template and that tool, which behind the scenes is using the language service, where we can see a list of questions that I kept getting, like what is the difference between Copilot Studio or Azure AI Foundry agent service, and the answer. And what's great about this is a lot of times your agents, when you use them, they come up with a new answer every single time, as Yina was mentioning. Now, if I ask, what's the difference between the Copilot Studio and agent service, you'll be able to use this knowledge source, this tool, to provide me the exact same answer that I hard-coded, which you wouldn't believe how many people ask this question, and it is a nuanced answer. And so I do want to make sure that it's answered correctly
every single time.
Every single time.
Let's check.
Oh, yes, OK. Flexible code first, speed and ease over customization. And then we can see it's the exact same text.
OK.
All right. All righty. So now we have two agents, which, if you remember, we only had one agent interacting with the customer through email. Now, we could, if we wanted to, add all of these capabilities to a single agent, but what you learn is that it doesn't really do that well. It doesn't scale.
It's better. Well, it's better when you want to try to do the whole evaluation and we want to do the integration with your pipelines if you have more simpler units of logic.
Exactly. Because what this means is you can create an agent that exactly answers questions correctly. You can create unit tests or evaluations to make sure that it's right. You can create one that creates issues. You can create one that, I don't know, we'll see some more in a bit. And the way you can actually orchestrate these things together is either through a feature called Connected Agents that both Azure AI Foundry Agent Service has released and Copilot Studio, and workflows, which is what I'm going to be demoing next. Excited? Let's do it.
Go.
Let's do it. OK, so we're going to be updating our process so that it's no longer just a single agent. We're going to have multiple agents. We're going to have an agent that triages all new emails to make sure, hey, should we create an issue or do we need to answer some questions?
And importantly,
yes.
human in the loop, right? Because we don't want these things to be doing automation without. There are times, and we will be getting to that. Because, yes, as Yina was mentioning, right now, if an agent then wants a FAQ answered, or a RAG, or a question answered, if the FAQ agent or the exact answer agent or the RAG agent doesn't have an answer, we need to pull in a human. And that is where the orchestrator comes in. And the orchestrator is going to be able to choose whether or not we need to send an email or pull in a user. Yep.
So let's go ahead and check out our demo. I'm going to be going into code for this experience for creating this multi-step process. And I'm going to be using, as we mentioned earlier, semantic kernel. Now, semantic kernel has a framework called the process framework. And we have here all of the steps that are necessary for my workflow. We can see triaging agent, the FAQ agent, all of them listed out here. And then to define the workflow, it's event-driven. And so we basically tell hey, when the email triage agent is done, we can send the request, the next step, to the FAQ agent or the RAG agent, and then so on and so forth. Now, as Yina mentioned, we're still missing that step of including that human in the loop. What do we do when we need that human to come in and answer that question that the agents didn't know about, right? For example, nowhere in our help content did we say when we were launching GA. These agents wouldn't be able to answer that question. And so we do need to elevate. I still have a role as a human to do some work, which in this case is provide answers that the agent doesn't know. And to achieve this, what we have done is we've integrated with the Microsoft 365 Agents SDK so that you can deploy your agents into Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot.
You could have built your own, web UI for the agent, but what we're doing is showing that integration into the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, right into Teams, right into Copilot for Microsoft 365, using the Microsoft 365 Copilot Agents SDK.
Exactly. Now, that's a mouthful, so it's always helpful to take a look at what we're talking about. So this, of course, is Microsoft 365 Copilot. And what we are going to be using is what's called the Agents SDK in order to push our agent into that service. To do that, all I have to do is create a agent that inherits from agent application from the M365 Agents SDK. I'm calling mine the buddy agent, since it's my buddy, and it's going to help me answer emails. And we can see, once we get to line 29, there's not much to it. All you're really doing is, whenever there's a new message to the agent, what is it supposed to do? And behind the scenes, we're calling the Azure AI Foundry agent service to generate a message and pass it back to the user.
Pretty simple.
It couldn't be simpler.
But it's not just Microsoft 365 Agents SDK. Like, with this, is underneath the covers is the activity protocol, which enables you to connect with many other channels that are supported by them.
Exactly. And we'll be taking a look at some of those channels in a bit. So we got our messages. We now need to add our agents into our pipeline. So what I'm going to go ahead and do
Are you actually using the agents that you've created with Foundry?
Yes. So each one of these steps, if we actually take a look at them, like the triage agent, for each one of them, we are pulling in the agent ID that references those exact same agent IDs that you would find inside a Foundry. So you can see them right here. So whenever we're using our agents within the process framework, it's using all of the evaluated and tuned agents. Mm-hmm. And they're also using threads so that we can observe all of the actions that these agents did in the future. Great call out. So I'm going to go ahead and go to our workflow, and we've added back into here. Oops, sorry for all the scrolling. We've added back in here the ask user agent, and the orchestrator agent now has a choice. Does it ask for more details from the user, or does it send an email to the customer? And with that, we're ready to try this out, Yina.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. OK, so what we're going to do is go into my customer's email box. And I've already drafted an email. It's drafted to me, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗲𝗻𝗔. And we have some questions. When should I use Copilot Studio or Azure AI Agent Service? What services does it integrate with? And when is it going to go GA? And we're going to go ahead and send this off. And we will check out our terminal to see that automated process working behind the scenes. We are in the wrong view. There we go. And if it's slow to start, it's because I was very frugal on my Logic Apps budget. So it's probably warming back up so that it can respond to the email and trigger things off. And when it just did, and we can see,
make it a little bit bigger.
Now let's make it bigger. We can see it starts off with that triage agent. It then fans out to the two agents that are going to answer the questions, which were inside of that email. And we can see an output from the RAG agent. However, there's an unanswered question here that it didn't answer. And then the triage, the FAQ agent was also able to provide some answers, and it too wasn't able to answer one of the questions. And so when the orchestrator is able to combine these two sets of answers together, it realizes I need to escalate to the human. I need to escalate to 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗻𝗂. And so if I go into M365 Copilot, we can see our buddy agent has proactively sent me a message. This is huge, y'all. This means that I don't have to be babysitting this thing all the time. It can message me and ask me to jump into a process whenever it's necessary. So it's asked me, when is GA? I want to go ahead and give it an answer. Today! Hooray! This has been a long time coming on. The whole team, the team's over here. Just a round of applause to the team. Lots of sleepless nights getting this thing to GA. So we're all very, very happy that this thing is finally live. So thanks, I've recorded it. If we go back, we can see that the process has restarted. One of the things I love about the process framework is you don't have this process just running indefinitely in your CPU. It actually gets terminated, and then you can pull it back up whenever, in this case, the human has replied. So it gets sent to the reply agent, and it says it has been sent successfully.
It triggers a logic app.
It did, and it sent the email.
That's the sending email.
And if we're lucky, no, of course this worked, we can see that an answer has been provided for each one of those questions.
Timestamp 341. This is all.
It does happen. It's real. It's real. And the reason, just a quick side, the reason I love this demo is a lot of the demos that you're seeing from other agent companies and builders and what have you, they're using the connected agents, which are powerful. Like you can give agents to a parent agent, and it can call them and fan out tasks. But it does it differently almost every single time. And if y'all had workflows that were accomplished different every single time, that would be a nightmare. With the process framework, with workflows, you can declaratively define
this is what happens every single step, and still leverage all of the new, like the capabilities that natural language model, like the natural language processes provides with LLMs, right? It enables you to adapt and not go beyond like the bots that you had from before that only knew exactly the answer that they were expecting, and if that was not the answer, you were like stuck in a loop and having a lot of like dissatisfaction from the customer.
Yep. These are self-healing. They can choose their own path through this workflow. This can unlock so much that was previously unautomatable. All righty. Now, we did mention channels. So the other thing I just want to quickly show is you could, of course, and we love it if you shipped your agents to Microsoft 365 Copilot, but because behind the scenes we're using the M365 Agents SDK and the bot framework, we can deploy it to any of the channels that are currently supported. There's a whole laundry list of them. And one of my favorites is Twilio, because I love going into Copilot Studio or Teams, but a lot of times I'm so busy that even my Teams becomes too insane. And so what I now do...
You need a text.
I need text. Yina was trying to find me before this session, and she couldn't because she couldn't text me. So she now has my phone number, so she, too, can text me. And so what this allows you to do, let's go ahead and just go back to the slides, is integrate with something like Twilio. You can get a message from your agent. You can provide it an answer, and then it can follow up with the customer, all without you ever having to leave the comfort of wherever you're sitting. And if you're interested in seeing how I actually built all this stuff, my repo where I have all the sample code is available.
Check it out.
Everyone's taking pictures. Definitely take a picture of it. Check it out. And that was our huge demo.
We're going to talk about Interop.
No. This is our one more thing. OK, so we have one more thing, and that is Foundry Agents Interop. So you saw how our agents were able to call logic apps. You also saw how logic apps can call our agents.
Integrating to Copilot for Microsoft 365.
Exactly. Now, and we talked about how you can integrate with all of your existing APIs.
Yeah.
Well, with the explosion of AI, everyone has decided that the great idea is to come up with new protocols to talk to everything. And we are adopting every single one of them that's popping to the top, right? So that's the Assistance API, that's A2A from Google, there's MCP from Anthropic, and we are making sure that they are supported with the Azure AI Agent Service and Semantic Kernel.
Agent Protocol from LangChain is coming as well.
Yes. And what this means is if you build something in Azure AI Agent Service, you can use it anywhere. So not only are we integrating with your existing technologies, but all of your future technologies as well. So I'm just going to drill in through some of the top protocols that we're really excited about and our customers are really excited about. There's MCP, which is basically a protocol for tools. So how do you give your agent more capabilities? So in this code from Semantic Kernel, we can give it the tools of GitHub's MCP server. Here you can see we're adding it to our agent. And then once we run it, we can see the power of MCP. So what we're seeing on the screen right now are all of the tools or actions that come with this MCP server. And then the agent can use it to answer questions. In this case, what were the top things that were happening inside of this PR? And it's able to use those tools and summarize it. And this is great as a developer because as everyone is building more of these MCP servers, adding them to your existing applications and your agents becomes
very simple.
Incredibly easy. Incredibly easy. Next is A2A, which is Google announced this how long ago?
Early April?
It's not very long ago. And yet we grabbed it and we integrated it within our agent service so that you can
interact between agents. But I was going to say, beyond agent-to-agent interaction and some of the capabilities that the protocol offers, we're also partnering with Google to advance the protocol itself, as we're partnering with Anthropic to advance the MCP protocol, right? Like to bring in enterprise capabilities to make sure that we co-develop the set of protocols that are coming together for agentic AI, so that you as a developer can leverage them and like not having this disparity across the ecosystem. It's like a tide that lifts all boats across the industry.
Yes. In an ideal world, there's one protocol that we can all get behind and really build this really rich ecosystem so that ISVs like SAP can build this beautiful demo that I'm about to show you, where what they did is they actually got agents from Azure AI Foundry. There we can see connecting with Azure agents, their own agents, and even Google agents. So here we can see checking Google agents to analyze the data. And it's able to combine the intelligence of all of these agents as part of their multi-agent system using, again, A2A to provide answers to their user. And this is kind of their management portal in SAP. We can see agents from both Google, their own Joule agents, and Microsoft Azure. So this is kind of the future we're moving towards, where all of these agents can interop across all platforms because they speak the same language, A2A.
Exactly.
And then lastly, we are announcing our Copilot Studio integration. So what they have introduced is the ability to have connected agents. You can add, of course, other Copilot Studio agents or M365 agents. What this demo is showing is you can add an Azure AI agent as a Copilot Studio sub-agent.
So imagine that as a professional developer in your company, you're building an agent that you want to make it available for other set of information workers who might not be in code and invoke your agent as they're building their own multi-agent systems, right? Like, so an information worker will be in Copilot Studio, and they will be able to build their own agents connected with other agents. And one of those agents can be an agent that is built in Foundry.
Exactly, exactly. And this completed, it pulled in. They even have their nice little trace view where we can see Azure AI Foundry agent being called, and we get a summary of its answers. And if you want to learn any more about those three integrations in particular, MCP, A2A, and Copilot Studio integration, we highly recommend you learn more at these other sessions at Microsoft Build. So I'm going to be speaking more about MCP with my friends in Copilot Studio. They also have MCP integration. We have, oh my God, y'all need to go to the second one. It's all about how do you actually build robust multi-agent solutions. They'll make everything that I built today look like a toy. They're going to go really, really deep into building these workflows and how to run the workflows in the Azure AI Foundry agent service. And then, of course, Copilot Studio integration. We have a talk tomorrow with the Copilot Studio team on how you can use those two products together.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So from SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, from Logic Apps to Copilot Studio to protocols around agent-to-agent collaboration to protocols to task calling, to just being able to use your own APIs, everything.
Everything. It all integrates, right? And that's
all integrates.
That's what I want you to take away from this, is it's incredibly easy to integrate the Azure AI Agent Service into any of the other applications that you're building.
Exactly.
And we're going to start wrapping things up. So thank you for attending our session. We did have a hackathon earlier, and I'm proud to kind of share those winners of the 2025 hackathon. Is the clap? Yes, 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 yes. I love hackathon winners where it's like clearly like a group of like super hardcore enterprise app devs, and you totally get that from the name of the best overall winner. RiskWives Supply Chain Risk Analysis System. These are like experts in their field building like amazing agents with the Azure AI Foundry agent service. Okay. And with that, definitely check out our documentation, download our SDK, get started with the Azure AI Foundry agent service. Basically, everything we showed you today shows just how simple it is to get started, either through code or through
on the UI
portal, right? And with that, thank you. These are the other sessions that we recommend you check out for the Azure AI Agent Service.